Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Season 1, Episode 13, The Wrath of Ruthless, Ruth's Wrath, Wraith, the Wraith of... Anyways, so the king shows up. Identical portraits, of course. Reads his daughter's diary. That's cute. That's, kind of a complicated topic, but not the kind of thing you just want to do casually, which I suppose is sort of the point. Naturally, upon finding out that his daughter has been having adventures, despite agreeing to do what he said and staying within the borders of the walls, she's still been having adventures, and that's just unacceptable. So, we're going to increase the guard. Cool. That's cool, dude. So we have a bit of a montage scene of her, like, basically the guards are following her very, very badly, and she turns it into a bit of a game, and of course she wins, as is her wont. I also, of course, noticed Beauty and the Beast in the library, and the fact that one of the guards effectively loses a fight to a crow, which says a lot about their level of incompetency. Quick question, did Attila always have the oven bits? Did I just miss that? So no, she goes to hang out at the pub because now it's pouring rain. Cool. And it turns out that they're telling ghost stories. Actually, no, it's just about their day last week. Did get a laugh out of me. It's the only thing that got a laugh out of me, but that did get a laugh out of me. There's a little tidbit where he says that, the guards aren't following you, Rapunzel. Guards are like cockroaches in this kingdom. If I had a higher writer factor, I could dig into that one sentence right there. Because a large amount of guards would be a huge drain on resources that could be better spent on other things like taking care of the populace or building up the infrastructure, both of which have been shown to be a problem in this entire show. It would also imply that all those guards are there because they're probably ex-military, the kind of people who used to be employed in actual battles and aren't anymore, but you can't just get rid of them, so you have to put them somewhere, so you put them in the guard posts. So therefore, you're kind of dealing with the we are not at war problem anymore by just kind of giving them a job and giving them a uniform. Which also, by the way, while we're on the subject, a recent war which led to all of this concept would also lead to a bunch of increase in orphans. And you see how all of this just kind of immediately ties into itself, right? I'm not sure if I even believe for a second that any of this is deliberate, but it would be interesting. Either way. So, the roads are all flooded. Dun, dun, dun. And we must face the wrath of Ruthless Ruth's Wraith. Will everyone please stop saying the wrath of Ruthless Ruth's Wraith? There's a lot of little sight gags like that in this episode. They're the best part of the episode, which is good, because the rest of it is off. So we have a setting that has actual magic, super science, and monsters, so of course ghosts are real. You'd think the captain would process that. Oh, yeah, no, I have chat right here, so I was seeing what Ruth was talking about during the VOD. I don't think she's even here right now. I think she left. For real, being trapped in the pub with Shorty does sound kind of like hell, speaking of which. Just go ahead and get that out of the way while we're on the subject. At this point, we maybe should just give a click for every single episode, because that just seems to be the thing so far. How do I feel about the Snuggly Duck Squad? Minus Shorty. They're alright. I mean, they're decent. They were decent in the movie, too, so that just kind of tracks. They're better... I mean, honestly, they do a better job of what Shorty is than Shorty does. So, I'm kind of with that. So, they're all telling tales, and there's some amusing sight gags, and there's some funnier things happening. They also name drop King Frederick. They probably have mentioned his name before. I'm going to go out of my way to immediately forget that. I hate to go down the rabbit hole on something nobody cares about again, but they mentioned that they've evacuated the East Bank. And they say that like that's a significant thing. East Bank refers to the part of land that is on the eastern part of a river. So if you remember the map from earlier, there's a whole lot of rivers inside their borders. So none of them are particularly dominant. So I'm not sure how East Bank even applies to them, especially since both of them are horizontal rivers. Okay. So maybe they mean the coast, although just saying the coast would be a much simpler way than saying the East Bank. But even in that case, we've seen several times that there's not really a lot on the immediate coast, so that doesn't track either. Did he mean the East Coast, which is actually would be the West Coast, so that would be the West Bank? Or did he mean the actual East Bank, which is on the west side of the island, in which case, why are they evacuating that? I'm sorry for going so down onto this, but it feels like something I've seen writers do periodically, where they want something to sound impressive and significant, so they use a phrase that isn't normal in order to indicate that, but they use it wrong. Because the more I look at the map, and I did actually look at the map here, I didn't see anything that even qualifies. In fact, I think, do I still have the image here? I do. Here, check it out. Oh yeah, proper nouning it too. So yeah, look at that. Tell me on this map, what is the East Bank? Like, again, there's several rivers there. And we see the border, right? No, exactly. That's exactly my point, 040. I'm sorry. I know I'm punching down on the episode, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. I had like 10 solid minutes where I had nothing to write any notes about. So while the episode was going on, I was just sort of looking at this map and debating what the word East Bank meant in context. I haven't bothered to look it up just in case I was misunderstanding it. And no, actually, that is how the East Bank is usually applied. Even the literal East Bank, which is an area near Jordan, is the same kind of situation. They could have said the southern province. They could have said the townships. They could have said the coast. There's all kinds of things they could have done, but instead it's just the East Bank. Like I said, it's just weird. And again, I don't have anything else to talk about. I did like there's this one little gag. It's a throwaway gag. As they get free, they're like, I'm free. I'm going to exercise every day. Yeah. But they're not actually free. But then they get free again. I'm going to exercise sometimes. I did like that little gag. Anyway, so the captain's our asshole for the episode, and he is. Now, what's funny is he's a full-on asshole, and then the next scene has him immediately apologizing for it. It's like they knew they had to have their asshole for the episode, but then we're like, hang on. Okay, he's cool. He's one of the good guys. We're cool. Quote him at. We're good. I should mention, I don't recommend looking this up, really, but there's something called trypophobia, which I might even be pronouncing wrong. It's a form of, it's not actually a phobia in the strictest sense. It's like a revulsion of holes, usually in like skin. And I do have that. It's the kind of thing where for a while there, several years ago, YouTube would be running these random ads, which were people which were photoshopped with tons and tons of holes and gaping wounds in their skin. For some goddamn reason, it was really gross. There was actually a protest about it and everything. This is, like I said, a few years ago. But I happened to see some of those, and yeah, that disgusted the hell out of me. Yeah, Facebook used to do this too. It's awful. Anyways, even it's actually fascinating because again, I had like 10 minutes of nothing to talk about. Even Ruth here bothered me a little bit, just a little bit. But it was still enough that I found myself looking away from the screen anytime she was on camera because she has these big old holes in her, and it's like, ugh. Like I said, it's hard to describe. It's this weird kind of just disgust revulsion thing. It's awful. And yeah, this is why assholes bother me so much. And yeah, this is our first real song since the premiere. Ruth, ironically, could probably tell you what type of song this is better than I can. I actually tried to... Beehives don't bother me. It's skin. Skin is what bothers me. I don't know the type of song this is. There is a clear genre of song that's being played here. It is the kind of song you'd see in a musical where people pass the story across individuals. Like, you sing this part, and that leads to this person, that leads to this person, and so forth and so on. A bar shanty? I guess? That doesn't sound quite right, but I could be completely wrong here. I don't know. Actually, no, Lord Harrowmont, weirdly enough. Because I know what you're talking about. Maybe it's an ensemble? I don't know. Like I said, Ruth, she's the expert here. She'd know. Ironically. But either way, it's an okay song. I don't really have much to say about it. And then they listen to the song. Even the guard captain sings. And then she gets out and she's free, and you must find your dreams. And then she goes to her dad, and her dad is just like, oh, I'm terrible. And she's like, ah, status quo, credits. And that's it. Like, there's no meat here. And I know that sounds strange because you're saying, of course it isn't. This is just a throwaway episode. Some of my favorite episodes of a lot of shows are throwaway episodes. I hate to go for the jugular here, but Shuttle Pod 1 is one of my favorite Enterprise episodes. And it's a complete throwaway. God, let me think of another good example of that. I could say Slice of Life is a good example of that. Over an MLP. That's very much just a throwaway episode. Yeah, it's Aquiel, exactly. This isn't really Slice of Life, this is Aquiel. It's just there. It reminds me of several other episodes I've been looking at recently, especially on Voyager. Because there's a few episodes on Voyager which are just there. Do you remember the episode Remember? Or do you remember the episode Unforgettable? Because both of those are extremely nothing burger episodes. And I swear I'm not making this up or joking about this. A lot of people tend to forget those episodes even exist. It's a good example of what I feel when I look at this episode. It's just there. There's nothing going on. It's all right. But that's not great. Yeah, they could have done something. They could have actually done quite a bit with this. But instead, it's just spoopy for spoopy's sakes. They could have built into the world building a little bit more. Maybe this woman was someone who died in that war that I mentioned earlier that I'm making up at this point because you know they didn't think about it that far. Maybe she was connected to the previous generation, which we've seen a couple of times. Like maybe she knew Mother Gothel or something. I know that's like a small world syndrome thing, but still, they live in the same kingdom for God's sakes. I don't know. This is all just literally right off the top of my head. They don't do anything with it, either in terms of connection or significance or anything. Instead, it's just, hey, here's a ghost. Here's a ghost song. The end. I don't think it dives down to blue. There's too many good jokes, and the song's decent. But I think it is sufficiently vacuous that we're going to go ahead and call it green. And just kind of slot that in there. And that's all I have to say about that. It really is just there. It is a bit of a bottle episode, but like in animation... Oh, speaking of bottles. That's the worst pun I've said today. No. There we go. My ban list is hysterical on Twitch. It's bots. It's just bots all the way down the line. It's fantastic. It's like a couple hundred of them. Anyways. I did think that was hysterical in Earth. I even commented on it earlier. No, you do not, Bionic Punk. Thank God. Or if you do, it's like in the 65,000 range. Having said that, though, I've heard your voice, and I've heard you sing, so I don't think that particular parallel coincides. But I do find it amusing that there's a woman who sings, and she happens to be named Ruth. That just did tickle me. I'm not going to lie about that. You really should do a cover of this sometime. If you feel like it. Oh. I was going to say something before the... Oh, right. Bottle episode. Bottle episodes in animation are a little bit different than bottle episodes in TV. So to explain this in brief, there's actually two definitions of a bottle episode. One is the obvious. It's a self-contained, usually very, very small episode, usually only like one set or whatever. And it's very, very character-driven because there's not a lot of action, there's not a lot of events happening, right? Very low on plot, very high on character. But that's that definition almost always dovetails into the other definition, which is it is a cheap episode. A bottle episode is by definition an episode that is very, very cheap to produce. That's why it's usually just a couple of people acting off of each other in like one room, because one set, limited budget, etc. In animation, that usually boils down to reuse of assets, as in like actual characters, reuse of locations, stuff like that, and very, very limited actual animation. By contrast, this was actually a pretty expensive episode if you're looking at it, because there's several new things. They have some special effects going on, like with the warp going through the door kind of a thing. And obviously there's the musical number, which is obviously pretty well animated, as it always is in this show, as everything is in this show. So I don't think I could call this a bottle episode. I'm not even sure we've seen one at the moment. Yeah, by contrast, there's a lot of animation which has very definitive bottle episodes because they are pretty freaking cheap. And it's pretty obvious. And yeah, bottle episodes in animation. I've even complained about this in video games. It's when they do flashbacks and then they do excessive flashbacks. Like, oh my god, you remember the thing that happened 30 seconds ago? And then they show the thing that happened 30 seconds ago. Why? Well, because for the showcasing of that flashback, they don't have to animate anything, making it cheaper. There you go. Boom. That's what it looks like. Food for thought. Yeah, Persona 5. Either way, this is a weird stumble in what has otherwise been some decent quality. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get the next 2 episodes done, and then I'm going to pause and I'm going to lay the hell down. I don't know. When... No, this says episode 13, Triaxia. I'm even double checking my notes. Hang on, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No, this is 13. So yeah, let's cover Max's enemy and then the Way of the Willow. And then we'll take a break. I'll take a break. And we'll see if I come back. I want to. The idea is to do the second shift starting with Queen Verde. So I'll see you in a bit.